And I told you that Raheem Sterling could be on his way to Arsenal.
Yeah, and
nobody could believe it.
And I told you, get back to me when he's at Arsenal.
OK.
But, you know, the more you think about it, right, to be honest, yesterday was like, no, surely not. But Arteta, I think I believe there was a crossover at Man City between the two of them. So
there was.
So he does know him. And oh, there you go.
This is what he's had to say about him. My time with Raheem was exceptional. We built a really strong relationship together. He was unbelievable at that time. He taught me a lot as well about individuals, how the players think, how we support them. He's someone I have really strong feelings about.
Yeah, but he's not the same player that when Arteta was at Manchester City. So there is that inconsistency, and then there is a big problem with risk. Now, if this deal goes through in 28 minutes or whatever it is, then you would got to feel that Arsenal have mitigated a lot of the risk through the salary. Because the salary is on now, Arsenal don't want to take that on over a longer period. So I would sort of swing round from yesterday in the sense that he would give some cover to Bukayo Saka, who plays and has played a lot of football. Obviously, we talked yesterday about Trossard, Martinelli on the other side. Trossard covers a few positions. Smith Rowe has gone now. So maybe he's looking for a bit of cover, but it has to be the right deal for Arsenal, not one of these last-minute gung-ho, head in the crap deals that they put themselves in years ago and left themselves with a lot of big earners. This has to work for Arsenal, and let's see if they're able to get that done. But primarily because of what Arteta's statement says there, clearly he feels that he's got a part to play possibly in helping this squad. He won't start, but he could help the squad. Well,
Mark Ogden and Jan Fjørtoft are joining us now. Mark Ogden has been keeping a very close eye on those transfer dealings. It's said to be very close, Mark. What more can you tell us about this Raheem Sterling to Arsenal situation?
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at the clock now, so there's 28 minutes to the deadline. And what I was told maybe 10 minutes ago is that the clubs have agreed a deal, and it's now with Raheem Sterling's lawyers to just fine-tune the agreement. So as long as they don't find anything to worry about in the next 25, 30 minutes, I think the deal's going to get done. So it is very close to the wire, but there's a confidence now that it's going to get done, although the caveat with the Sterling camp is that it's not done yet, but they are really trying to get it over the line. So it's just with the lawyers now. It's just with the contracts and just making sure everything stacks up.
So is this? Are we talking loan deal or are we talking permanent here, Oggy?
It's a loan deal initially, Craig, and with an expectation at the end of the season that it will become a permanent deal. So he's got 3 years left in his contract at Chelsea, and obviously he signed, I think it was about £50 million 2 years ago. So with amortisation at the end of the season, I don't think the deal would cost Arsenal too much. I think you're probably looking at around £20 million. I think that's what it would be worth at the time. So I guess if Sterling has a good season, £20 million for a player of his experience is a good deal. But initially it's a loan. And what I was told early in the week was that he's on a massive contract at Chelsea, £300,000 a week. Chelsea, just to get him out the door, would probably go to halfway covering that. So if that's the case, if they're covering half his wages and Arsenal are getting this guy for 150 grand a week, that is good business for Arsenal, for a player that has got a lot of pedigree, he's won everything apart from the Champions League, and he knows Mikel Arteta. So I think all round it's a good deal if they can get it over the line.
It would still advantage Manchester City when you looked at their bench. And there is no way your starting 11 will go the whole season. So you will see, you'll have a look who you need there. He's an intelligent player. He will know his position. He will know where he goes. And maybe this is exactly what Sterling needs as well, to get a manager that believes in him and give him a fresh start.
It's another former Manchester City player for Mikel Arteta, Xhaka, coming into Arsenal. Obviously, Gabriel Jesus, Zinchenko, Raheem Sterling is another.
Well, those two never work.
Yeah, I have to say, I don't get this. I really don't. Listen, I understand Arsenal want bodies, want to Mark's term, pedigree, and they find that in Raheem Sterling. But Sterling has done nothing in the last 2 years that suggests he makes Arsenal any better, even as a squad player. And so if we're here talking about maybe a £20 million package or 150 grand a week for a player who's there to cover Saka, to give him a rest, to maybe add some experience to a dressing room, I find that a lot of money to pay for a player who doesn't make you better. I just don't see... I don't see the value in this. listen, great. Maybe it's exactly what Raheem Sterling does, and he goes in and proves me totally wrong. But as we sit here, I'm not sure what we're hanging our hat on in terms of these numbers.
I know what you mean, but when City have to rest players, and they are the that's the team that the others are aspiring to, and Arsenal have got close the last couple of years. But when City need to rest players, and in the modern day, you just can't go through these seasons now with 14 players. You just it's not going to happen. They bring in, maybe not equally as good, but they bring in quality, and they've lost one of those in Julian Alvarez. But when Grealish was out of form, it was Doku, who was 60 million as a young guy, I know that, but coming in. When if Foden was out of form, it was Alvarez coming in. Bernardo Silva, the list goes on, and Arsenal certainly didn't have that on the right-hand side. If you can't give Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard in particular rest during the domestic season of 38 games, you're probably not going to win the league. And so I don't think it's an ideal scenario, but I think it's the best-case scenario for Arsenal in Arteta's eyes if the risk is mitigated with Chelsea paying the bulk of the salary. But he's still going to have to come in and do a job. But ultimately, you're paying money to have experience, bit of quality, bit of pace, bit of nous on the bench that can come in and cover key players. And Arsenal have learned the hard way in the last 18 months or so that you cannot win this league unless you can do that.
Which I agree with. But then, to your earlier point, Craig, it just feels like Arsenal have found themselves drinking in Last Chance Saloon. Now, the transfer window is closing. Let's freely assume that Mikel Arteta looked high and low for a Jeremy Doku type player. You mentioned Jeremy Doku. Wasn't able to find that young player who can come in and have an impact. And so now, with 22 minutes left in the transfer window, we're trying to get this Raheem Sterling deal over the line, which, again, you brought it up. It just feels like Arsenal at the last minute trying to plug holes that in an act of what feels like desperation to me.
Mark Ogden, signing for Manchester United. Tell us more.
So this one's it's probably been done, 95% done for the last 2 days, but United had to get Scott McTominay out of the door to Napoli before they could do Ugarte. So McTominay to Napoli was completed about 2 hours ago. That freed up the money for United to complete a deal for Ugarte. They had the money, but it was obviously part of PSR rules. They had to make sure everything balanced. So United have got Ugarte from PSG. He's only been there a year, but he's a proper defensive midfielder. He's a young defensive midfielder, tenacity, box to box in terms of he can cover the ground, and I think is what United haven't had for a long time. They've had McTominay can cover the ground, but he's not quite got the football nous that Ugarte's got. So this is a really big signing for United because they've really lacked somebody to kind of anchor the midfield, play in front of the defence, be a partner for Kobe Mainoo, phases Casemiro out of the team, I guess. So this is a big deal for United, but because it's happened so late on deadline day, he won't be eligible for the squad for the weekend against Liverpool. So it's going to be after the international break when he makes his debut for United.
And where's Jadon Sancho going to be this coming season, Mark?
What are we on now? 10 minutes to go. United and Chelsea have agreed a loan deal, so it's about getting that over the line. We've got 10 minutes to go, and I'm just looking at the clock thinking maybe not. But United and Chelsea have agreed a loan with an obligation to buy. Now, I just cannot get my head around this deal. It's a brilliant deal for Man United. They've got Jadon Sancho off the books, a player that has clearly got no future under Erik ten Hag, but listen, maybe the guys can. I'm sure Craig got an opinion on it. Why did Chelsea need another forward? Let one go, Raheem Sterling. But why do they need the 9th forward? A guy that never plays, hasn't kicked on at Man United for 3 years. It's the strangest deal of the window for me. This, if it gets done, which you probably will do.
Would it be so strange?
Yeah. Another one that they heard he was available and thought, yeah, we could do. We're lacking numbers. It's like, I tell you what we'll do. And I go back to, so they signed Pedro Neto, they signed João Felix. Dewsbury Hall's going to be a bit part player by the looks of it. And then all the rest of them. To give them a credit, they were really good against Wolves, and João Felix came off the bench and scored a very good goal. Right, they were excellent. However, they had a good blueprint over the last few years of the inconsistencies of João Felix from his time at Atletico Madrid, from his time at Barcelona, and dare I say it, on their own doorstep from his loan spell at Chelsea. So they went out there and they've spent quite a lot of money on a very inconsistent player who was once deemed to be a superstar. Now it looks like if they get this deal through with a few minutes to go, they're just bringing in another player in a position where they've got plenty of players for. And guess what? Another inconsistent player. Very inconsistent. He had a little spell on loan at Borussia Dortmund last year when they got to the Champions League final, when he did OK, to be fair to him. But is there anybody, and maybe the guys disagree, is there anybody thinks that Jadon Sancho is going to go to Chelsea and all of a sudden become this young man that was actually looking very good at Borussia Dortmund? It just doesn't make sense, particularly bringing these players in when your key position, and I don't want to go over old ground here, I'm not going to mention his name, but when the key position that they had to fill this year really was the striking position.
Go on, just say it.
Go on, say it.
Just say it.
Go on, mention it.
Nico Jackson.
I feel as though Jan Fiatov may disagree with some of what Craig was saying there about Jadon Sancho.
I would some time ago, because I followed this player very closely when he was at Dortmund. I saw him nearly every game when he played with Haaland. They were fantastic together. But I'm with Craig with this one. I have no clue what's going on. The thing is that sometimes when Arsenal's doing Sterling, you think that they have a process and they decide to do it. But when you look at Chelsea at the moment, you try to be the devil's advocate. You have to have a look. Maybe they're thinking so-and-so. What's the philosophy? Yeah, maybe they do this. But it's actually impossible to understand the strategy of Chelsea Football Club. It's like we were sitting here and thinking, what could they do now to make us even more confused? Yeah, let's take another forward, another winger, who is exactly the same as we have. Let's not go for a striker. Let's get him. I mean, maybe sometimes in the future there will be a book telling us that there was something business going on, that they had to do this, and Manchester United and Chelsea had to agree on this, and this was for the longer good. What do I know? But yes, okay, you know I love Sancho, and he was one of my favorite players. But I can't see any strategy behind this.